Hello and welcome to Thank You Five, hosted by Straw Dog Theater Company. Thank You Five is a weekly panel discussion on the topic of what is theater, where we bring theater artists from around the globe into a conversation about live theater in a digital world with a spirit of gratitude and innovation. My name is Hank Boland. I'm an ensemble member here at Straw Dog Theater Company. I'm a teacher. I'm a parent. And just all around panel host, I guess. That's what I do. But we are joined by four brilliant guests this evening, and they're all about to introduce themselves. Caitlin, can you start us off?
I'm scenic and puppet designer. I work heavily with the Chicago International Puppet Theater Festival, as well as Rough House Theater, and I am the mom of a 1-year-old. I'll send it to Gabby.
Thanks, Caitlin. My name is Gabby Randle-Bent. I am she, her. I am the Associate Artistic Director of Court Theater. I'm a director, a dramaturg, a student, a professor, and a mom of two, a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I will send it to Lydia.
Yeah, hi, Gabby. My name's Lydia Milman Schmidt. I am a director and teacher, and I am also the Chicago Chief Rep for PAAL, which is the Parent Artist Advocacy League. Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya Rosenfeld. I'm a crazy pants multi-hyphenate, was an actor, stage, then television, then stage again, then became a writer producer, then decided I was happier behind the camera and now write for the man. And the whole time I was a headshot photographer. And I'm the stepmother of 2 kids. One is about to turn 15 and the other one is 18. I'm working at Starbucks and those discounts are amazing.
Oh, that's better than having a horse, right?
Honestly. No shit to shovel.
Sorry. Yeah, just grounds. We start pretty much every episode with the question, what does theater mean to you, right? And I would love to go through that real quick and think about what theater means to you, or what it means to you. Let's just go with that. And I'm going to start with Gabby, and we're going to, Gabby, and then we'll just round robin through.
Okay, great. I made that face because I wasn't at any of the preparation.
That's so, and it's okay. You're a theater maker, right?
Yes,
so
I guess I maybe have thought of it before, huh? What does theater mean to me? I mean, I think that theater is a lot of things, and I think it's not a lot of things. In some ways, it's a building, not necessarily the sort of gatekeeping way that we think about the places where we want to get in and out of, but it's the feeling I had today on the first day of tech when I was walking backstage, drinking stage manager coffee, remembering the first time I felt that way, that I got to see both what it looks like from a seat and also from a wing. Theater is the tradition of the troubadour, of the griot, of the storyteller that is as old as people. And theater is a calling. It's an art form that does more than a conversation ever could. It's the ability to be in communion with each other, and make the special type of alchemy where you go in one person and you come out another person. And there's no other reason that happened other than that there were other people there. That's what theater means to me. Why don't I, do I get to choose?
Well, we usually go in alphabetical order, so let's throw that over to Lydia.
So I'm a theater teacher, and I teach middle school, which is this like magical time where humans become the humans they're going to become. And I get to witness some of those humans become theater kids. And some of them come to me already theater kids, and it's undeniable. And I know when they walk in the door to my classroom. And some of them take a little bit of you know, welcoming and enlightening to sort of get them there. And those are the most fun. And even the kids in my class who aren't the theater kids, I hope, are sorry, there's a child who might be trying to come in this door, but I think he's okay. It also might be a cat. But I get
you can
to
generally
see...
tell the difference though, right?
No.
Okay.
You would be surprised. I have a very quiet child and a very aggressive cat. But yeah, so I sort of get to see this place where theater is essential. Like, you can see when the kids really need to do it, and also see where theater is like a little light that they've never considered before. Hopefully, I mean, it's middle school, so also for some of people, I'm sure it's their least favorite class, and that's also okay. That's my perspective at the moment on it.
Maya, what about yourself?
Theater, I mean, yes, and to everything, said more eloquently than I will right now. I think for me, you know, growing up being a theater kid, there was a safety and a level of inclusion in the theater community that didn't exist anywhere else, for me personally. And, you know, I found people on my planet, which was nice, which, you know, when, you know, your life is this microcosm of whatever school that you're in, and you have no like capacity to imagine something beyond that or better. That was my first window into, oh, it gets better. You know, I just think it's the best place to tell a story and educate and heal and inform and expand people's minds. Yeah, it is, as always, I always keep coming back to it as my home and being the most kind of powerful storytelling mechanism that there is. I mean, there's tons of them, as we've seen, a world now flooded with all sorts of different media types, but I feel like the kind of experience, to your point, Gabby, that happens in a theater with those people in that one performance at that time is not replicatable. And for that, it is magic for me.
Yeah. And then I guess I was going to pretty much echo everything everyone's already been saying, but I was going to say just a deep sense of community is what I always got from theater. And then on top of that, the storytelling is really fun and like uplifting. Certain like really good stories just kind of like nurtures the soul. I could maybe do without some of the like really old stories that are maybe like questionable now, where I'm like, oh, we're still doing this musical. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, with high schoolers, sure.
Honey hits her and she says it feels like a kiss. That's weird.
Yeah. But no, I've been fortunate that the past couple shows I've designed on, I've felt really good about the story as well. You like the people always feel usually good about all the people in the room, but yeah, it's really rewarding when the story also makes you feel good.
That is fantastic. Thank you all. So tonight is sort of I don't want to say we've constructed tonight to focus on the idea of having parents in the room. And Lydia, you are here. You were with PAAL. I would love for you to talk us through that, because I think for the rest of this time, while we're going to focus on like what is theater and all of that, I think understanding like that doing this as parents brings with it a different skill set and a different talent and a different amount of pressures probably too. Can you talk us through and introduce us to the idea of PAAL?
Oh, yeah. So PAAL, the Parent Artist Advocacy League, started right here in Chicago around 2017. I've been involved since the very beginning. Sort of the brainchild of Rachel Spencer Hewitt, who is an actress and a parent, and remember having very early conversations about work that I had already done sort of in that space, and that Rachel was trying to continue to build on, and then ended up building this massive national network that I could never have conceived of myself. And I am just sort of happy to be in the orbit of this national organization. There are chapters in cities all over the country, each one with its own unique sort of structure, and what they do is unique to the needs of the people in their town who are working in theater. So it really is, in the truest sense of the word, sorry, grassroots. But then there's also an advocacy piece that's national. So it's a really wonderful sort of mix of people. I've met parent artists, not just in Chicago, but all over the world, or all over the country. My work on advocating for parents who are working in theater actually started way back when my now teenager was a very tiny baby. I went to graduate school in the UK, and when he was born about a month after I got my MFA. So I was thrown into the deep end of being a parent artist. And I was lucky that I pretty quickly found other people who were in a similar situation. There's this great organization called at the Young Vic Theater called the Directors Network. And we sort of found each other. There had been a panel on parents. I met one, then I met another, then we started meeting and we had coffee and our babies played together. And it went from there. We did research, we did surveys, we got into spaces. The Young Vic Theater was very generous to give us space in those early days to have workshops. We sort of said, well, how does it work to have a baby in rehearsal? How would it work if, we took turns? So we sort of played among ourselves. We were mostly all directors with a couple actors and designers thrown in. And that's where, for me personally, it all started. Some of the people in that group have now gone on to build a nationwide advocacy organization in the UK, which is also really exciting. So this is something I have been talking about, shouting about, crying about, frustrated about for now into my teenage years as a parent. And it's always, always an inspiring conversation when you have parents in the room. And I have never met a parent artist or an artist with caregiving responsibilities outside of theater who doesn't say that it makes them a better artist. And I find that really super inspiring.
Fantastic. Awesome. So with that in mind, Maya, I'm going to start with you. So I'm prepping you, right? I feel a little bad. I feel like I caught Gabby off the unprepared, but she had cake and the rest of us did not have cake. Now
I know,
it was on,
and it was delicious.
yeah, and it was ice cream cake, so you had to eat it. It wasn't going to wait.
I had to eat it really fast, or else
Yeah.
it's going to be there in an hour.
And it is not your responsibility to digitally give us cake.
No,
Cake it's a personal. But
I'm a mom, but I'm not your mom.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you merely said that to keep me from asking you for money. So Maya, I'm going to start with you and ask you this question, and I'm prepping you to know that a question is coming. What we just heard from Lydia is amazing, and I'm curious. You are a stepmother. I would love to hear about how being a mother and a stepmother has impacted you in your arts. And then we'll go around with like how parenting is impacting each of us. But in early, I'm going to vamp while you think. I can see the you had mentioned that you did not necessarily have the 11 years of prep to become to have a teenager.
Right.
So can you talk us through the impact of becoming a stepmom and how what that did for art?
Here's I mean, I hope it made me a better storyteller, because I feel like in a lot of ways I have skin in the game in a way that I didn't have before. And that's not to say that people that don't have children can't be great art makers. I think that um, that's as insane of a statement as like you have to be tortured and mentally ill in order to create great art, which I don't believe is true either. I just think that if you're passionate about storytelling, if you're passionate about something, if you're angry about something, that makes you a great storyteller. The kids came into my life right when I was pitching a children's television show. So that was really fortuitous and very helpful, because I would run ideas by the then 8 and 9-year-old, because it was for his age group. And he was incredibly thoughtful and articulate about, like, no, I don't think I'd want to watch that. But what I would want to watch is this. And I'm like, okay, like it was having my own focus group in the house, which was amazing. So that was great. And I think that, you know, I've always had kids in my life. When I was 22, I was nannying for a family, and that was the first time in my life. And I was like so depressed about some guy I was dating, and I was like, ugh. And then I started nannying this little girl, and it gave me such a sense of continuance and furtherance and something more important in the world than like myself and this guy who like totally didn't want to date me. And from that moment, and for all the kids that have had in my life and up until this point, and now being a stepmom, just a sense of a greater good, and what world are we leaving for them, and what stories can we better tell them, and information we can better give them in a safe kind of productive way. And I was listening, this isn't my thought at all, I was listening to Sokola Radio years ago, and they were talking about the importance of theater at a young age, and that children that are exposed to theater at a young age end up becoming better community members, right? Because they're put in a place where they can conceive of human beings having lives outside of the town that they live in, and that there are people in other places having different experiences or similar experiences, and it makes them kind of more mindful of the world around them and less self-involved. So I think that it's been something that I've all my kind of social justice passionate, I've always kind of tried to a lot of it has been because there have been children in my life, and that only got like super cooler when I had 2 permanent children in my life. And they're also dudes, right? So they don't have any of the baggage that I grew up with being a girl. And that's kind of fun. But also raising them to be the kind of guys that aren't going to be why my childhood was shitty. You know what I mean? So,
you don't want them to grow up to be dudes.
No, they so aren't. It's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, they're just not. And they're like mad about dudes who are dudes. You know what I mean? And they live out like, I love that they get to come to the city and have kind of a much more diverse probably experience than their cohorts are, because they're out in Rochelle, Illinois, and there's some diversity, but I'm actually surprised at how great their school is on this. But they get to come into the city and get to meet all my friends, which is not who they're hanging out with out there.
All right. Thank you. Brilliant. Caitlin, what are you, I mean, not everybody has to answer this as we've discussed, but.
Yeah. So usually, as opposed to being in rehearsal, I'm usually like making things furiously to have them done for rehearsal. But what I've found granted, I've had Gareth in like outside my womb for like a whopping 1 whole year. So, but I think I find a lot more joy in like little moments, rather than sometimes it's just like hustle, 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 pay the bills. And I feel like when he's starting to interact with some of the things I'm making, and like I take a picture, I'm like, this is actually really fun that like you are acting with these things, and like seeing the things I'm making through like his eyes. Cause like generally it is fun making a puppet, but sometimes I'm really tired and not really enjoying making that puppet or making this costume piece or making whatever it is I'm making. But then when he comes in and it's like putting it next to him, and I'm like, oh, look, it's a baby bird and a baby, or like, oh, you're wearing this mask that like is like a Trojan mask for whatever show. This is like really funny. So finding like joy in these little moments, and Eventually, so far he's made it through like one puppet show, like one whole puppet show. But that I think was hinged on the fact that he like truly napped up until that show started. And then he made it through like maybe half of another show I took him to. But that was fine because I was gonna go see that show on opening night anyways. It was a preview. I was like, we're not going to like assume you're making it through this whole show. But yeah, so hopefully as he gets a little older, he'll be seeing some shows. I remember like my parents taking me to like, it was usually Sesame Street Live was like the big show they would take me to. And then I remember for like my 4th grade present for like graduating elementary school, they took me to Cats. And I took my cat Beanie Baby with me to Cats because obviously that's what you do. I got to bring my Beanie Babies with me. But yeah, so looking forward to him like understanding a little bit more of what's going on other than like, oh, I go to a different warehouse to do something artsy with mom today, and she puts me like in a corner where I'm not allowed to touch things. So rude. So rude. But when it's like a baby safe, touchable things that we're working on, I'll let him roam free. But yeah, this past week has been a lot of painting, and like I don't need him getting into paint, so he can be upset about the fact that he can't get into paint while I work. That's the past week.
All right.
Caitlin, I have to tell you that my daughter, who's 9, went to see Cats at the school where I work.
Yeah.
And wore her cat ears to go see Cats. So
Perfect.
you're in good company.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabby.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So Gabby, you have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old.
And if for everyone doing the math at home, I have an almost 4-year-old and I just became a 2-year-old.
Well, I was mostly thinking about the parental juggling, not the not the accounting. I mean, I have one. I know how it works, but like I don't have 2, and I don't know how that works. So how like you and when I hear you list off like I'm a scholar, I'm a student, I'm a this, I'm a that, like how?
Yeah. So like I don't know how. Like I just did a big sort of budgeting binge at my house and I realized that there were bills that we'd been paying and I honestly don't know how they got paid. Like I don't know where the dollars came from. Like we paid them and then they were done. But like because I wasn't accounting, it was just sort of I was like threw paper up in the air and then it all landed in the right place. And that's kind of how time works with toddlers. Is like I think if I sat down and tried to account for it all, it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be logical, and I would probably lose my mind. It helps that they're really cute. They also play
They
with
sort of build them that way, right? Like that's sort of, I think that's across the board, even out of theater, but
and they look like me, which is also super useful. But then also I think that like my professional life has been about learning how to set healthy boundaries. And I think that to me is like one of the greatest joys of parenting is that um people sort of implicitly understand when you say I can't, my kid is sick, I can't, there's school, there's no school, there's never any school, just so everybody knows. There's never school's hardly like
no
Caitlin,
school
you're like
November.
yay school, but then actually like they're only in school for 4 days. The rest of it you still just have to figure out what to do. And I love that because it keeps sort of this frame of that I need to be a superwoman, or that I need to be doing it all, or that I need to be accomplishing more than is humanly possible, just sort of off the table. And it also, I think, is like really good for our industry. I think that that's one of the things that makes parents, but especially moms, great in leadership positions in theater, is what it means to boundary set when you are doing something you absolutely love, but that will absolutely kill you if you let it take as much of you as you want it to take. Um, and you have to learn when to say no, you have to learn when to take a walk, you have to learn when to eat dinner, you have to learn when to wash your clothes. I feel like those skill sets are absolutely transferable. And that way, I never have any ambiguity about my priorities as a parent, but it really, really brings a lot of clarity to my priorities in a rehearsal room, or my priorities as we're building production schedules, as we're figuring out rehearsal schedules, as we're navigating people's conflicts, that like sometimes stuff just doesn't matter as much as you thought it did when it was the only thing you cared about.
Yeah, kind of on that, I'm in a tech right now. Technically, there's gonna be preview tomorrow. They're taking photos tonight, but last October, Jesus, May 5th is Garrett's birthday, and that was our second like long 10 out of 12 day. And I'm like, when I got the offer for the show, I was like, that's my child's birthday. I will not be there for that 10 out of 12. And no one like put up a fight. No one like, but it was also kind of nice getting out of that 10 out of 12 to make a cake. And like kind of hang out.
Do y'all feel like that is varying degrees of true based on where you are in your career? Because I just know, like in Los Angeles, like if you're I have a friend right now who's like been on a TV show for 10 years and is hiding the fact that she's pregnant, or like made sure she was able to get pregnant before she starts showing. She will have it on hiatus, and then she's got to like starve herself or Ozempic some shit so that she can be back on like that. And again, like the scarcity of jobs and the overpopulation of actors in Los Angeles makes it so that they hold all the cards in that, like, well, that's fine. If you need that day off, we'll just hire somebody else, is a big
I
bargaining
should also
chip.
say I'm a designer, not a performer.
Right. But I'm sure that's true.
Different.
I'm sure that's across the boards. I mean, I have friends that are like sound designers that have been on tour. They have kids that are graduating this year, and like were gone. I mean, they were in tech every week of the year at a different theater traveling the country, and they're gone 40 weeks a year. You know what I mean? And if they say no, then they don't get that show. Like, I think that's probably true. And I'd be interested to hear. Sorry, I'm asking a question that's terrible. Sorry, Hank, it's your job. But like,
No.
Like,
That's the job. I'm gonna just roll
how you
back
guys
here.
negotiate. How do you guys negotiate those decisions that I didn't have to make? I did help. I mentioned this before we got on tonight, that like I did help run interference for friends of mine that were like, I have to meet with Disney. I have no childcare. Can you drive to the West Side? And of course we're like, yes, women supporting women, we got you. But like, how much of that has been a factor, or maybe not? I'm just kind of I'm fascinated. And again, like I said, thank you for your service, because I didn't have to deal with that. I got to do my life in like compartments, and this compartment I can prioritize my kids in a way that I couldn't have if I had met them even 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the I can, like, you can claim intentionality in retrospect. Like, I was just throwing shit against the wall, but like part of the reason that I went to grad school and like the type of grad school that I went to was intentionally so that I didn't absorb norms that were not serving me, right? And so I never even the person who decided to go to grad school was a was a drunk 22-year-old who like could not imagine someone who would choose to love her forever. And so like much less like I was never like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna have a nuclear family. And then it happened and I was like, what? And like now there's like a dog in a house and like I just got sod put in. And so like I think that's what I mean when like I loved what you said, Maya, about like being a parent is in an exceptional position, but it is a particular one. And like I think about it as just one of the skills that like people bring lots of different skills, and I don't feel like I have to um uh uh say, you know, like as a parent this, as a parent that, but what it means for me to be at the point of my career, it's actually quite inconvenient to have toddlers, to be at the point in my career where like I am learning how to run a theater, but it also means that I am learning how to run a theater as a person who believes in the power of theater to help change people's lives. And that if that costs somebody their life, the life that they want to make, then like if that costs even one person the life that they want to make, then I'm not making the type of theater that I want to make. And so like being able to be a decision maker is exactly where I sort of fought to be for this reason, even though I didn't know it was the reason at the time, because like I have been in rooms where like I I didn't have childcare all of a sudden, and I was co-directing a show, and the other person who was directing the show was pregnant, and and she was on a bouncy ball. She was on a yoga ball that I had requested because I was pregnant in a room before, and my production manager had to have a yoga ball before when she was pregnant, right? And so there's this like traveling sisterhood of yoga balls while my 2-year-old or my 2-month-old is like in a pack and play and people are sort of passing her around. And like that's like this beautiful thing, but it's also this idea that like once you realize it's okay, then you don't once you realize it's okay, then it's no longer the boogeyman, right? Like once you're in a place of power and you're like, actually, kids, you probably shouldn't have a child in tech, but also maybe let's not do 10 out of 12s. Maybe let's do 8 out of 10 so that we can go to bed. Like, I love starting a rehearsal at 9. Everybody tells me actors hate being up at 9, but do you know what? Everybody loves being out of rehearsal at 3. So that's when school ends. Like like those types of things that like we imagine are unbreakable rules, actually like that's a lie. And all it takes is being in the position to break them. And like, not everybody is, but like what it means to work to be in that position means that like, we don't have to keep on living the way that we've always lived, because it really is it's just a lie. Like, yeah, you make the work in however much time you have. And sometimes you have less time, and sometimes it's for stupid reasons. So why don't we just have less time for good reasons? Like bath time.
Yeah. Like
mine's just that I procrastinate.
That too.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I think it's exactly what you said at the beginning, Gabby. It's who has the leadership, who is in leadership in the room. And I can say that things have shifted. I have felt the shift in the last 13 years that I've been doing this. And there are more women, regardless of parenting status. There are definitely more parents and in those leadership positions, and you feel it. There also is just more visibility, and you can do that when you're in the position of power, or you can do what I did and do it when you're not in the position of power and just say, yeah, I can direct this show, and here's my baby, like he's just here, and this is how it's going to be. And it, you know, did we take slightly longer breaks? Sure. Did we sometimes have to just stop? Sure. But did we get those shows up? Absolutely. And, you know, or it's, hey, if we're doing this rehearsal schedule, this is what I need. And it's really been, you know, I have seen so many parents in my career just sort of stepping up and saying, this is what I need to make this work. I cannot stay late. If you say we're done at 3:30, we are done at 3:30 and I am leaving. please don't call me if you're not going to use me. All of those things are things that I think used to be a lot more difficult for people to say, and are getting, I hope, I mean, it's like been my life's work, so I hope that it's getting easier for people to say, this is what I need. So I think it has to sort of come from both ends. It has to come from the power, and if you can get there, and then bust those doors open, cancel 10 out of 12s, and let all those like parents in below you. And if you're not at the top, you gotta like just show up with a kid. I mean, I remember I was directing at Governor State University, and I had twins who were under 1. So that was I don't know, that was crazy time. I barely remember it, but I do remember this.
That's when I first met you. You had like
when the twins were babies.
Yeah, you came to like Northbrook, and everyone was like, oh my God. Like, I think they were all making a fuss because I think it was like the first time you came in with the babies.
With them. Yeah. Well, there we hired the theater did not. I hired a babysitter to babysit on site because it was such a long commute. But I definitely remember walking into a production meeting, and I was like, I didn't have childcare. I had to take these babies. I had to drag them all the way down to Governor State University, which is far from where I live, and rocked in with a double stroller. But I knew that everybody else in that production meeting was also a parent. And I didn't even ask. I didn't say, can we reschedule? I didn't say, heads up, I'm coming with 2 infants. I just did it, and it was fine. And it was great. And so I think like the willingness to disrupt those norms is getting stronger in a really good way. But I do, Maya, to your original question, like I had people tell me when my oldest was born, like, don't tell anybody in a job interview. Don't tell them in an interview that you have a baby. And I remember I when he was very small and he cried a lot, I dropped him off with my friend. I said, it's going to be an hour, 90 minutes tops. I'm going to go to this interview, and then I'm going to come back. And I came back, and he had been screaming for 90 minutes straight, nonstop. This poor, I can't believe she was still my friend after that. But that's what you felt that you had to do. And I did not mention in that interview that I had a baby. I also didn't get the job, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that was definitely true 13 years ago. I hope that it's less true now.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah, and I think there is, granted, I have only like dabbled isn't even the right word. The film industry is not something I have really parlayed with. I've done like a couple independent films, so I think it's based on the friends who have spent more time in the film industry, it seems like a very different beast with a very different time schedule that I'm like, you know what? I'm good in theater. Am I gonna make 6 figures? Not just with theater, but like I have a work-life balance that is a little bit, is it healthy? No, it's closer to healthy than a lot of my friends and acquaintances who are in like the film industry. So I think it's a very, like I kind of like they've said, I have just showed up with Gareth because I'm like, oh, part-time infant daycare. What is this mythical unicorn that like theoretically exists on websites but doesn't actually exist in like real life? And then I was like, you know what? You're gonna hang out with me until you're 2. And then we'll reassess. We'll reassess at that point because part-time toddler care seems much more accessible. Right. But also he's been having a blast coming to all these different places with me. Like last month, I went to Virginia for 2 weeks for like an out-of-town show, and I knew the director very well, Jarrell Henderson, if anyone's worked with him. He's great. And he knew I was bringing Gareth, and I was just like, you know what? Like I might not show up at 2 every day for tech. Like I might show up like at 2:30 or 3, but also I was the set designer for that, and it was a unit set. So I'm like, the walls aren't changing. If I get there at 2:30 or if I get there at 3, like it doesn't matter. And then I kind of kept Gareth on Central Time. So there were a couple late nights that I pushed him, and then once previews hit, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, we're not gonna have you in the audience. and the theater was very nice and with like there's a rehearsal room off the balcony that you can put like the pack and play. So I was able to watch like a preview and a half that way because I just hadn't gotten his sleep schedule to like perfectly line up to like, I was like, yeah, you're not sleeping through this whole show. You're either sleeping through act 1 or act 2. But yeah, that theater was also just like very like everyone loved like they loved having a baby in tech to like
That's the
coddle.
thing. Hearing you all
So
speak, I remember now too when I was nannying, I brought the kid to a Shakespeare rehearsal, and everyone was like, "No problem." And I think that that is one of the really defining differences between a theater community and a bunch of theater artists that all have degrees in empathy and compassion, as opposed to people who are more interested in bottom line and you know, an industry that's run by MBAs instead of MFAs.
yeah. Well, and like when
It's
there's like tape rolling, like
right,
and a baby like
Yeah.
makes a loud noise in the
right.
back, they're like, cut, we need
Yeah,
to
they're like, nope.
re-record. Whereas like when he was in tech with me nonstop, my director friend Jarell was just like, this is great because this is what live theater is. Someone's gonna cough, someone's gonna yell, like people are gonna fucking say shit in like this is great. We need distractions to try to throw them off and like have them keep the scene going. So that was, but that's not like every director. I'm sure there will be some directors in my future that maybe wouldn't like him in there, but maybe also he'll be older then and whatever. Like they know by this point, people know that Gareth is a package deal. So at least when I'm in Chicago, I'm able to co-parent more than solo parent, and then I can go to the previews without baby. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's like not every situation is optimal. I'm currently hiding from my children, right? Just to do this. Like my son is calling me. He hasn't seen me. He hears my voice and I'm gonna pretend like I don't hear him. But like, so
Well, they're high on cake.
I know they went out and got some ice cream cake and now they're like sugar zombies roaming my house. But like I feel like, yeah, not every situation is optimal. So like not just to like dump on film, which I don't work on purpose, just because that's not how my brain works. But like the question to me, even beyond boundaries, is about priorities. And like kids just didn't ask to be here. We just like we're like, hey, here's the world. I'm your parent. And they're like, cool. I hope you know what you're doing. And you're like, I'm gonna learn. And so I feel like the very least I can do is make them my priority. And like what that looks like is sort of intentional co-parenting. What that looks like is hustling not just to find childcare, but like to let everybody know where it is and what's good and what's not working and what is working, right? It's we moved our whole life. Like my whole life is now in like a 10-block radius so that if something happens, I can be in tech, but I can also be at his school in either of their schools, right? In 10 minutes on foot. Like those things aren't necessarily about even in industry coming to meet you, but it's like that being vocal about where your priorities lie, I think allows people to have priority like have things that are important to them that aren't just the thing that's in front of you. And I feel like that's sort of like the most seductive thing about being an artist, is that you imagine that that's the most important thing in it and nothing could be more important. But like as soon as we stop pretending that, I think our art gets better. Like somebody's like, you know, people have cats and plants and aging parents and plumbing.
Be holding on there.
Sorry, I've got to go take care of my grandma for a second. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
As
See?
if,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So like that as a world building tool, I just like, I don't know. I think it couldn't, Maya said it best, right? Like there's just nothing more important than the people who rely on you, and though and what it means to be present with them, I think allows you to then be present in your work, and it makes you better at it. It doesn't make the art doesn't need us to be less of ourselves in order for it to be more.
I never want to follow you. You just say such brilliant stuff, right? Like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just soak that in. Oh, I want that on a pillow and a t-shirt and like in my head all the time. Uh, as is almost always the case, I can't believe we're like winding up on an hour already. And this has been such a joy. I have two quick questions that I want to try to get out, but then I've got to go do thank yous and we'll wrap up the show. But my first question is, I'll ask them at the same time and you guys just deal with it. Then I'll throw it out onto the floor like a bouncy ball in like a kid in a bouncy ball house. Anyways, are your children theater kids? And Lydia, you started this by like, oh, I can spot a theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
How do you spot a theater kid? So are your own children theater kids? I mean, like by virtue of having come up in it, they probably are. And maybe you don't know yet, but I think all kids sort of are, but I'm going to like leave it at that. What do you think?
So I think that my oldest is a reluctant theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks that he can avoid it, but he's gonna get drawn in. I mean, he's 13. He's very tall. He can tap dance, and he's gonna go to high school in a year. And suddenly they're gonna be like, "Wait a minute, you need to be in every show."
Yes.
But he also
you're a male presenting person that can dance.
Yes,
and hold a beat. Amazing.
Yes, yeah, he can carry a tune. But he is also really interested in all of the backstage, everything. So I think that he is the reluctant theater kid. He just doesn't know it yet. The little ones, I think it's too early to tell. They haven't quite come into their theater kidness yet. We'll see. I mean, somebody when they were little used the term theater rats for like when you bring your kid to rehearsal, and it just really stuck with me. So, and I think that is never going to leave them. And my oldest did it for longer than the little ones did. But I think that like feeling, I hope that feeling of like home when they're in a theater is always going to be just part of them. Because how could it not be? But as far as how do I spot a theater kid? I mean, I think it's curiosity is what I can sort of suss out in them. And so if they come into, I am very fortunate to teach in this very old theater space that has been in this school since 1904, and it just is a beautiful, lovely little wooden stage that has, seen lots of children doing lots of beautiful, wonderful, silly things. And when I see that little spark of curiosity about like, well, what is that? What is this? Well, when you say that, what do you actually mean? That's when I know. And then the ones, it's always, they want to sit down at the light board and start like pushing buttons. And I'm like, aha, well, if you want to do that, I've got something to show you. So yeah, we'll see.
My answer is, dear God, I hope not. I'm like, I need a job where I need you to have a job where the size of my 401k is not a detriment to my hopes for longevity. But I think I think what I love for them, Caitlin, you were talking about being exposed early. I wasn't a theater kid. I didn't know I was a theater kid. I was like an accidental theater kid. I was like just a jock who was doing electives until that was my job. And my parents now love to say that they took me to my first show when I was 18 months old and I went to see The Wiz. And like there's something that like theater, and especially going to theater, was a part of my life long before making theater was a part of my life. And for them, one of my favorite things is my 2-year-old, my daughter, uh when she's playing pretend, they both say, "Oh, we're going to the theater." And then I say, "Well, okay, what are you going to go see?" And she says, "Lions." And so the fact that the theater and the zoo are the same thing is exciting. Or the Field Museum.
And a
Like,
core truth.
yes. So like the idea that one of the when they're little imaginations, they can go anywhere in the world, that one of the places they want to go is the theater, is really exciting to me. But then I hope after that they go to law school.
Yeah, I mean, Gareth's one. So right now we know he likes blueberries a lot. That's a passion of his.
You can build on that.
Exactly. We can, if you want to become a blueberry farmer, go for it. But no, I kind of, like Lydia was saying, like I do hope that like he maintains that sense of like familiarity and like home in theater spaces. And because it's like now I have like pictures of him backstage at like so many different theaters and like on stage or like around rehearsals. So like some of these places that I remember when I was like becoming the theater kid I am now, like in high school and college, when I was like just wowed by like backstage spaces. I sort of hope he maintains like a sense of wonder to that, since like now it's like he hasn't had stranger danger because he meets so many new people constantly that like it's not like a thing he's like the like, oh my God, like he gets upset when I leave a room without him. But like he's not ever scared by new people. He's like, oh my gosh, you're paying attention to me. Thank you. This is amazing. Like, let's have fun. So I hope he maintains like a sense of interest and wonder in all the new places that he goes.
Caitlin, the most important video to get is the toddler chasing the channel check.
Nice.
There's
Nice.
nothing more fun than watching them. And then
Yeah. Watch the
That's so cute.
I'll see if I can do that. I'm usually not there for channel checks, but because I'm not a lighting designer. I'm usually like,
just like if you sort of are at the end of like dinner break or just like right before a preview, just like
I'll have to keep my ears peeled. Eyes peeled, ears peeled. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just keep yourself peeled.
Yes, the whole
Yes.
thing.
Completely peeled. Maya, we were talking like, are the kids in your life theater kids, or how do you spot a theater kid?
First of all, I just want to apologize. I'm also taking care, speaking of caretaking, my 97-year-old grandmother who decided not to stand up all day until we have 5 minutes left. So that, my kids are, one of them is definitely like kind of shy and not a theater kid. But the younger one loves it. And when I took them to my alma mater, and we went into one of the black box theaters, and they're like so excited to be on a set, and they're like, give us a suggestion, and they wanted to improvise. There's all that. And then during the pandemic, the little one's a ham sandwich. We did a lot of videos. I don't know if you guys know Scott Duff. He's an actor here in town, and he did cooking videos with Scott Duff. And then Caleb was like, who is this Scott Duff person, and how quickly can I become him when I become an adult? And so he started doing his own cooking videos, but of course we did cooking and cursing with Caleb. So this little 9-year-old is like, fuck, that's hot. And we would beep it out, and that was the joke. And that kind of got us through the pandemic. And he, joined his theater club. He actually turns out to be a marimba virtuoso, and is now in, jazz band. And we go see him perform all the time as a musician. And he's in the marching band and all that kind of stuff. So I have, but I wouldn't have their parents, my sister wife and my husband, like really just encouraged them to be whomever they wanted to be. And that was always the right answer. And so they've never been afraid to try anything. And so like can I spot a theater kid? I don't know that I would have picked either of these kids, maybe the little one, but because they've had all of this space to not know the answer and try everything, they have. And that has been super fun for me. And I've had them help me with, I do corporate videos, and like I've had them jump in and be my actors in the corporate videos, and they love it. So it's like a family affair.
As is always the case, right? Like I want this to be a 90 minutes, a 2-hour show, but that's just going to be exhausting. So here's the thing. I'm going to do some thank yous now. And then when I come back from that, I'm going to ask each of you to make a recommendation for something, right? Like it might even be like a great children's play, but a book, a craft book, a script, something like that. And Caitlin, I'll just throw out my child also, we didn't want to have stranger danger. And so I would suggest, I was like, don't talk to strangers, introduce yourself first. And so she introduces herself to strangers before talking to them. And she's 10 and she still does that. So
Great.
yeah, I just did not want stranger danger. So we're going to do some outros, some thank you outros. Hold on just a second while I find those. We have 5 thank you outros, and I want to get them all right and perfect and beautiful. So thank you number 1 goes to officehours.global, Guy Cochran, Edwin Ruiz and Mondo Machine, and KBH Media for helping make all of the technical aspects of the show possible tonight. Thank you number 2. The show is made possible by Straw Dog Theater Company and its ensemble members. Straw Dog is run on a free theater model. All our main stage productions are available to everyone free of charge. And the only way we can make that happen is through generous donations from our community. So you can get more information about donating to Straw Dog or becoming a sustaining monthly member at strawdog.org/donate. And I think there's probably a link in the show notes. Speaking of Straw Dog Ensemble members, thank you number 3 goes to Kyle Hammond for creating and producing this show. He's a big fan of number 3. Thank you number 4 to our audience and our community who watch every week, whether they watch live or on delay. They chime in, they participate. Without you, our community, this would just be 5 people talking to themselves about God knows what, but right, like thank you for tuning in. And thank you number 5 to our amazing panelists, right? It's nights like this that, again, I wish it was 90 minutes, 2 hours. So thank you for sharing your brilliance and your insight and your passion, right, for parenting and caregiving. And Maya, thank you for getting up and going. The world did not fall apart. You got to give care. It's been just such a pleasure spending my evening with you. And so the last thing before we go, what do you recommend?
I guess I can start, I suppose. I was thinking about it since we saw it in that email you sent us. Podcast wise, Normal Gossip is a very fun podcast where it collects, instead of like celebrity gossip tabloids, it's like normal people living their normal lives have tea to spill about like other normal people living their normal lives. And this current season they just did one that like had like a community theater aspect to it, so that one was pretty good. And the one that I just listened to, oh my gosh, what was it? It doesn't matter. Normal Gossip, it's a really fun podcast.
Bunko.
They anonymize everything, or like anonymize it, so it's like they don't reveal what city, or like they change all the names, but it's still, you're like, oh my god, this story's great. So that's what
I already subscribe to that. I just know.
Great.
Oh, it's the best. The community theater one was the best one. But the Bunko one was the latest one.
That's
right?
what I was just, okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, that was the most recent one I listened to.
Yeah.
Was a wild ride with twists and turns.
I love it.
Who will go next?
I can go. Go ahead, Gabby.
Lydia. No, Lydia, you go.
Okay. I have a book because I was feeling very cerebral and literary today, but you can tell how much I've read of it, which is not a lot, because I'm devouring it slowly. But it's relatively new. It's called Running the Room: Conversations with Women Theater Directors, which I thought was appropriate for today. It's out of by Rosemary Wall out of the UK, so it's all UK theater directors. But when I picked it up off my shelf I just have to share, appropriate to our conversation. This is my little Jacob, his little face sticking out of that. I used his picture as a bookmark. I think it's a picture that came home from school from some bulletin board or something. So yeah, his little face was peeking up out of the book, which I thought was really cute. But very good read so far.
Love it. Love it. Gabby, Maya, who you want to? Maya, go.
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna say Gabby, go. I unmuted to
just
say Gabby, go.
made the call.
All right. Mine's a bit of a cheat, but I'm going to recommend what I'm going to be doing this summer. So Caleb read Romeo and Juliet this year in school, and he's so excited about it. And I am so delighted that Oak Park Festival Theater is doing it this summer, and so that I can take him for a live theater experience so he can see that, because theater is meant to be seen, not read, so he can actually have his first, he's seen some Shakespeare, but not like a fully produced and something that he's read and studied in school. So I'm super, super excited for that summer outing this summer at Oak Park, where they're going to do the show that he read. It's like,
yeah. I remember being a little bored by like the history plays, but then I saw one live and I was like, this was great.
Right. You're like, oh my God, Henry V's the best. Who knew?
Yes.
Right. Totally.
Okay, great. I'll go. On Monday, I'm going to see one of my favorite young playwrights, a reading of her play Island of Love, Felicia O'Doux, at the understudy. And the reason I'm so excited about it is that it's a brilliant send-up of Love Island, because there should be more plays about terrible reality TV. Also, in addition to cake, I've been making myself Nando's sangrias. I don't know if anybody ever has sangria from Nando's, but it's just their old bottles of wine with Sprite in it and then some fruit.
Oh.
And so if you have a bottle of wine you opened and you didn't finish and you're like, this isn't as tasty as it used to be, put Sprite in it and call it sangria.
I like that tip. That's a good tip.
Orange soda
Fresca
works
is also
well
a
too.
good Fresca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly we've all done
Cut up some
Yeah.
fruit if you're feeling fancy.
So it's
Summertime.
yes.
Were you making that during the show?
I have no grandmother.
I made it during our 5-minute break after I got cake from my neighbor.
Yes.
So that it looks like juice, but it's actually just a little bit of Nando's.
I have fallen in love. This is
I know I
amazing.
just met you, but I love you.
Mind blown. I love it. Hey, we're starting to run long and Kyle's going to kill me, but Lydia, how can people reach out? How can people get more involved? We talked and talked and talked, but tell us, like clearly there's a need. So how do we reach out if we have a need, or how do we reach out if we want to support?
All of the above. So the website for PAAL is paaltheater.org. I should probably have double checked that. PAAL, PAAL with 2 A's. And you can follow PAAL Chicago on Instagram. You can also find me. I am at Milman Schmidt everywhere, and I am always, always, always happy to talk to parent artists. My favorite thing is when somebody I knew as an actor or whatever has a baby, and then they're like, wait, now what? And I'll be like, I got you. Let's talk about it. Or I can just be here and you can just tell me all the horrible things and all the wonderful things, and I will just listen. I do all of the above. But yes, there is a community in Chicago. Please come join us.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming to us with this idea and helping us create this space. I think we should do it again. But also, folks out there, like if you want to maybe find a thematic idea and bring it to us, we can do this. Also, if you want to be a guest, always reach out to kyle@strawdog.org. Next week, Manny Ortez, our ensemble member, will be hosting. I think we might be looking for at least one more guest next week, but we always book weeks and weeks in advance. So you want to come on the show, send us an email. We'd love to have you. Thank you all for being here tonight. I don't know if y'all have to go do bedtime, but whatever. I'm going to go do it for myself now. But thank you all so much. And on behalf of everybody at Straw Dog, and thank you, Five. Thank you.